Okay, I can do this. Preaching behind a pulpit is one of my strengths. Not really. If I start walking over there, just remind me you can't hear me. It'll be fine. So what we have today is January's wrapping up, and we are finishing kind of a love section of love requiring certain things. And so the first week we talked about love requiring action, that you got to get into it. It's not just enough to say you love, you got to do it. And then love also requires leadership. And so we have people that need to step up and just serve in that role of leadership. And boy, did we see that when we had all those elders and deacons come up here. That was pretty cool, I have to admit. And then the last one, of course, last week was joy. We have to have joy. And so those three are the ones we've talked about. But today, I want to talk about love requires being real. But the very first thing we kind of have to talk about when we talk about love being real is, well, what does that mean? Right? Because I can say I'm going to be real with you, but or I'm keeping it real, but what does that mean? And so I thought I'd look it up, and I had a definition here that I thought I'd share with you. Being real is authentic sharing of what you are experiencing on the inside and how you communicate those feelings. So what you're honestly feeling on the inside and then how you get that out. No tricks, no trying to deceive, no trying to fool somebody or trick them into something. You're just honestly sharing what you're feeling, okay? So one thing that it is not is kind of this thing that sometimes we see when people say, I'm just keeping it real, and then go on a long rant that they're mad about something or this just isn't fair or blah, 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 blah. And so, sorry, I'm behind the pulpit. Cut me some slack. So, man, I'm just keeping it real here. And here you are giving me the old, So I tell you, one of these days, I'll be sitting out there and you'll have to preach up here and then look out. No? Sam, you could do it. I know you can do it. You can do it. I have faith in her. Don't you guys have faith in her? Yeah. You're going to do great things. Trust me. You're young. I'm old. You're going to do great things. So anyway, these rants that people go on, that's not really keeping it real. Because there's two things that if we are to be Christian, if we are to truly show God's love and to make God's love real to another, there are a couple things that we always have to keep in mind when we're talking with folks. And the very first one is we should be mindful of what that person is experiencing, what they're going through. This may come as a shock to you all, but some people have tribulation in their life. Some people run into trouble. Some people have problems. And you can add on that, sure, that's fine. Or you can understand that when somebody's gripey or complaining or having a bad day, well, be mindful. Why? Take a moment, think about it, and then respond in that mindfulness. Now, the second thing, be kind. Seriously. You can still correct someone. You can still even discipline someone. But be kind. And if you can't be kind, well, be quiet. I don't want to hear somebody be mean and belittle and badger and denigrate someone because they aren't meeting their high expectations of absolute perfection in absolutely everything they do. Be kind. Be mindful. These are the things that make love real. Is when we get over ourselves and our emotions and are able to communicate to others the love of Christ. Christ, in that moment, when he was walking toward the cross, which really, when you think about it, he was walking toward the cross all of his life, was mindful of others. Always. Think how many stories started with Christ reaching out to someone because he knew what kind of day they were having. Think of the woman at the well. Think of the beggar. Read your Bible. I don't have to tell you all these. He was always mindful of another. And then what he was invariably was kind. Kind. Not that he said, well, okay, you've had like 16 husbands and now the guy you're living with isn't your husband, but keep on going, have fun. No, he didn't say that. He was kind, and yet he still held her accountable. You can be kind and do that. Or you can destroy a person and really have gained nothing. Those are the two things. And then this passage that we just read, that last verse, as a matter of fact, this passage really keeps it real, I think, in that there's this frank statement at the end. Just this is it. Belief and faith in God leads to salvation of your soul. Period. Now, that's not much. Or wait a minute, is that a lot? I guess it depends how you look at it. Why do you follow God? Why do you love God? Why do you reach out and love others? Do you do it for money? I don't know. What about admiration? I hope not. Maybe you're hoping if you do it, you'll have great health all your life. Maybe if more people around you do it, we'll create this great society and we'll just have heaven on earth, right? Or maybe you do it because that's the joy, the salvation of your soul. What does it gain someone to have all the riches, all the wealth, all the admiration of the whole world, and to lose their soul? You have gained nothing. But to save your soul through faith, that is something that will last forever. It will not perish. It will not perish. So that's the beauty of this passage, I think. It's just cool how it just nails it there, because he even says in this passage, you notice, well, some of you are suffering right now. I mean, he acknowledges it. And there's a lot of them, he's writing to people who are no longer living in Israel. They've been kicked out all over the world. And one of the main things they want to be able to do is come home, because it's a strange place where they live. And they don't get to go to the temple, and they don't get to do this. It's a rough place. And so he's very honest. He's very real in saying, well, you're going to suffer. And guess what? You may not have money. But if you keep the faith, you will save your soul. So is that enough for you? Is that enough for you? So I was talking to Emma yesterday. Well, it was not yesterday, it was Thursday. And she was reporting how her school day went. And some days you just kind of hold your head like this while she's reporting that the teacher, gave her this, that, and the other, And some days you have good days, so then you're happy. And Thursday seemed to be a really good day, because what happened was she took her spelling test that her and I, we'd been studying all week on this, and she was getting, half of them right when her and I were going over it. And So I was a little nervous when I asked her. I said, well, how'd your spelling go? And she said, beautifully. She said, I got a 94%. I was like, ooh, I said, that's pretty awesome. You're pretty smart. And she goes, no, I know it all. Well, I was unaware I was in such a presence. So therefore, I jumped to something that Maya Angelou, she said once. She wrote this book about, and so I asked Rachel, Emma. I said, Emma, why does the caged bird sing? Why does the caged bird sing? That fearful trill that the bird lets forth. Is it because of what? And Emma looks at me like I am the dumbest person in the history of the world. And she goes, well, duh, it's a bird. She's right. She's right. So, okay, she's still batting 100 or 94% plus that one, I guess. I don't know. So, why, church, go through all this trouble of coming up with a vision statement? Why say this? We here at Central Christian Church are making God's love real. What's the point of doing that? Can't we just, do it? Well, that realness again is, how are we going to convey that out? If we say it, that we love everybody, well then how do we convey that out? And if we don't convey that out well, do we really mean it? And so the challenge in this vision statement is very real. If you accept it, it means we got to do something about it. It means we have to stand up and say, we're going to do something to make God's love real to another. Not so much me, because what I'm doing in all this is I'm working out the salvation of my soul. But I want to share the good news with someone else. So, what am I supposed to do? So I've been met with a challenge. Can I make God's love real? Well, I thought about it. And I really can't do any other. I can't. I've tried to live a different life. I've tried to do it a different way. It didn't take. It didn't work. I was miserable. I was unhappy. This constant stress and press to try and get more money, more acknowledgments, more awards, more this, more that. I got all that. It didn't help at all. Didn't help at all. Until I started seeking that one thing that's being talked about here. Faith in God that leads to the salvation of my soul. And at the end of the day, you can take your riches, you can take your fame, you can take your great health even, right up to the grave, I guess. Some people die healthy, it can happen. You can take all of that. I'll take my faith in God. And I believe that will save my soul. So the question for you today, seated in the pew, is just about as simple as it is for me. Can you make God's love real? Well, my statement is, how can you do any other? How can you do any other?
Well, without God, we're nothing.
Without God, we're nothing. And so I encourage you this day, especially this day, seek others. Be mindful of what others are going through. And be kind. Hold people accountable, but be kind. In all of this, you will find blessings not only for them, but for yourself. And so, All you get out of this is the salvation of your soul. My question to end with is that enough for you? And if it isn't, why not? God bless you all. Real good. And amen.